My name is Heather Feather. I am the owner of Rare Bird Medicine, and today's topic is I'm not privy. One of the things that I work to be mindful of throughout my life, and I'm definitely not always, may I always be more and more mindful of this piece, is that I am not privy to the context of many, many things that are occurring around me and in my life and in response to engaging with others. I'm not privy to lots of context as to why somebody behaves the way they behave, or why they do the thing that they do, or why they say the thing that they say. And so one of the ways that I've talked about this historically is like, I'm somebody that believes you have many, many lifetimes. There are many, many lifetimes you've been making tons of decisions, and there's all this context, and I believe in karma, and there's all this karma that's unfolding, and this learning, and this also offering and teaching you've been developing in the developed soul. And by the time you get to me, there's also an entire life you've been walking in, that I've been walking in, and there's all this context that I'm missing about your day, about your week, about your month, about your childhood, about your life, about your past lives. And there's so much that I don't see about who you be when you behave strangely with me or ugly with me. There's so much that I don't see. And so I do my best to really be compassionate and do my best to ask questions, to work to understand. I've definitely failed myself in that aim, but I'm constantly working to meet the person that's in front of me to the best of my ability that I can, instead of making up a story about the person that's in front of me, or trying to change the person that's in front of me to be what I want to see. I watch a lot of people do this in relationship. Normally it is somebody that's more feminine in principle, but wanting to change their partner. Oh, he doesn't want kids, but don't worry, I'll get him there. Or, oh, he has high risk behavior. I don't like that. It makes me feel unsafe, but never mind. It's like, that'll change, It's like, no, it's good to be honest with yourself about the person in front of you. It's good to be clear about who you're engaging with. It's good to receive people, I believe, from the way they describe themselves, from their own truth, from their own awareness. And even as somebody, you ask questions, as you get to know them, as you work to understand, I am never privy to truly comprehensively understanding another person. I don't see all the shoes you've walked in. I don't see your childhood that developed your personality, your attachment styles, your love languages, there's so much information. And as a developed psychic, and as a developed intuitive who's been leaning into her third eye this whole lifetime, and I believe for many lifetimes, I also have to remind myself, because I do see much. I see many worlds, it's one way we could say it. I'm very multidimensional in my capacity for sight. And it doesn't mean that I'm right, and it doesn't mean that I see everything that's present. There's much information and much context that I am not privy to, that is not present when I'm engaging with another. And so my aim always is to never project Heather's idea of another person before me, but instead to receive the person to the best of my ability that is before me. And to understand too, no one will ever truly see me. No one will ever truly understand me. There are all kinds of things that what the ego denies, it will project. So anything in anyone else's ego that they deny, they'll project onto me. Oh, she's doing this because blah, blah, blah. But it's not about me, it's about them. So a lot of people will not see me. They'll make up stories about what I'm saying, or they'll fill in blanks in their own brain and how their neural network is wired and therefore firing together. But, oh, she said this, that reminds me when so-and-so said that, and it means this. And they might not really actually receive the message at all that I was saying. And so one of the things I work to do is to make peace with the fact that no one in the world, not even myself probably, is going to understand me comprehensively. And I'm not even privy to all the things I've been, to all the things I will become, I'm not privy to all the, it's in medicine journeys that I've been privy to some of the context of my childhood, when my father drowned in the river and my mother was still breastfeeding me. Plant medicines have given me the opportunity to walk in her shoes for a minute, and the grief and depression that she was in when I was a wee babe. But I'm not privy to the entire context of my own youth, my own development. How could I possibly be privy to understanding, to have knowledge of somebody that is walking in different shoes than I? And so I had a recent experience where it's funny how life, it's like you say, I'm not going to eat cake, and the universe is like, cake? We're having only cake on the menu today. And you're like, okay. Thank you for the opportunity to solidify my no and be empowered in the inner authority of my no. Love this story so much. It's not challenging at all. And I'd been flirting with the idea of becoming celibate because my dear friend Christian was in kind of a toxic situation, and he's a good person and a good soul. And so I invited him to move in with me because I was flirting with this idea of being celibate. He's going to be celibate all of 2025. He had already been in that frequency for several months. And I thought that's a great way to harmonize my frequency if I'm intending that, to be around another energy that is intending this. He's also sober, and I'm doing this 44 days of sobriety, and I'm just flirting with really clean living and kind of walking more of a monk-like path right now, and just letting go of desire. So the dropping of desire, very Eastern philosophy teachings are what we both study. And so he did move in with me right before I went home for the holidays. And right before he did that, I had the opportunity to connect with my ex. Of course, it's like all of a sudden, I was not talking to my ex at all. All of a sudden, I'm talking to my ex. And we did come together, and we were with each other. And then I was going to have him watch my cat because we remain friends. And he didn't show up. He didn't do it. And I think he didn't do it because right before he was going to watch my cat while I was out of town, I was paying him to come by and check on my girl each day, I told him Christian's moving in. He needs a place to stay. He's going to come sleep on my couch. And so he'll be there when you come to feed Salusa. And my ex never showed up to feed her. Thank goodness Christian was here. I hold no judgment against my ex. He sent something in a text that kind of implied that he assumed that I was sleeping with Christian simply because he's living with me. And that's not the case at all. He and I have no romantic intention towards one another at all. We actually are developing a spiritual self together in this time that we're spending before he moves on to Washington. But when you're not privy to seeing the context, he's not privy to seeing me in my home, seeing that he sleeps on the couch, seeing that there's nothing going on here. It's easy to assume. We often make assumptions. We often fill in the gaps. We often use imagination to make up stories, and then we hold those stories as if they're truth. This is the truth. Even though I'm not privy to the context of what's going on, I'm not even being privy to the context that Heather's never lied to me, that Heather, has never cheated on me, that Heather, you know what I mean? It's like, even though we're not even holding the context of things we already know to be true, we can sometimes fill in the gaps with what we maybe would do in this situation. Well, if I were in that situation, I wouldn't have somebody move in with me unless I was sleeping with them. It's like, I've had lots of people move in with me that I'm not sleeping with. This is not the red light district. I like supporting people on their journey. I like treating others as I would like to be treated. It's one of the principles I work to live by. And I know well what it is like to need to get out of a circumstance that is unhealthy. And so I don't have any judgment. I don't have any judgment of my ex in regards to this. I'm recognizing, it's like I've been thinking about this piece of how much I'm not privy to. When I think I understand, think of anyone in your life that you really think you get, you think you understand them. Anyone, pick anyone. It could be a partner, it could be a child, it could be a parent, it could be a coworker. Do you know them? Do you? You're not with them every breath. There are a lot of things. There are a lot of trials and tribulations and dark, shadowy realms that two-leggeds walk through that you are not privy to seeing or witnessing or understanding, because many two-leggeds hold within. Not everyone. Heather Feather shares a lot of her story because my Dharma is now illumination, and my duty as a soul is to aid two-leggeds to illuminate the darkness. And that's when I am a soul is here. I'm here to do that. And Akashic Records has said I do that through video communication. And so I really work to push Vishuddha, my throat chakra, open, even though I'd love to Scorpio Mercury hide forever. I really work to express and fulfill this Dharma of bringing light into the darkness. But I was thinking about how many, this is going to be a graphic thought, but how many of our mothers out there, our grandmothers out there have been assaulted? I mean, sexually. Do you think they told you that as a kid when you were growing up? Perhaps some, perhaps some. But there are many things that occur in this world that we are not privy to, that we don't see, that we don't hold the context of in our being as we watch somebody behave in a way we don't understand. We go, I don't understand that. I wouldn't act like that. Well, you also didn't grow up in that childhood. You didn't grow up in that childhood. My ex and I had very different mothers. Mine was extremely nurturing and attentive. I wouldn't say the same of his, you know? And so I have empathy. I have empathy that that it's very likely, and I'm not privy, I don't know, I just assume, and that's the point of this video, I assume that he's made up this story about me because he didn't show up and just cut off communication. Often what the ego denies, it will project. And when we were together, he was with other women and he was lying to all three women about it. And so he thinks as soon as he sees a man in my vicinity that I'm sleeping with him and I'm lying about it, because what the ego denies in the self, it will project and place on another. The truth is, I have never lied to him, and I have never been with another since I dated him. Since I started, since we very first started dating, I haven't been with another person but him. And so, and that's okay. It's okay if he does think I was with this person. It's okay if he doesn't think that, and I'm not privy and I'm making up a story. What I want to do is be present with understanding that even if that is the case, I assume that's the case. As I lean into my third eye, it feels like that's the case. That's a story being made up. But again, it's a third eye. It's kind of hidden in there. You know what I mean? It's kind of looking through a veil. I got to remember the context of how, even though I look often with it, how I see through it. Even if that's true, I'm not privy to all the things that would cause him, not even what the ego denies it projects. I'm not privy to all the things that would cause him to come to a false conclusion of me. I have had people come to false conclusions of my character, of my being, of my intentions. My experience with being neurodivergent is that it's really not that strange and different from a neurotypical person. I am just sometimes overly trusting and overly willing to share and overly intimate in ways that it's like, okay, most people don't invite strangers into their home. I've done it a bunch. I've done it for many years. Constantly invite people. I'm like, you need a place to stay? I got a couch. You know what I mean? I don't want people to not have a place to stay. I don't like that for them, And so I've been described often as kind of gullible or overly trusting. But a lot of people aren't privy to the fact that I have no fear of death at all. It's all I do is bury the dead, it feels like sometimes, which is just my dramatic explanation of having so much death experience in this life. But many are not privy to the fact that my primary concern is that when I take my last breath, I be well pleased with the person I chose to be. And so even if I invite someone into my sacred temple and they cut me up into a million pieces, I would rather that occur than me not be the woman that is willing to extend a hand when someone is in need. That's what matters to me, is the woman that I be when I take my last breath. Who am I being? Is it my home and my couch? You don't come in here. I'll pray for you. You know what I mean? Yeah, there are ways in which certain people aren't allowed in the garden of my life because they're tearing up the garden I'm trying to create, and I will pray for them. And to the degree that I am able, I extend my life and my offerings to others because they're not mine. They're not my possessions. I do not possess them. I do not own them. I am not the proprietor of these things that I have and I got and I claim. This is the energy that surrounds me based on the consciousness that I've held. It belongs to divinity. So do I, so do you, and I'm happy to share a bit of you back with yourself if you forget how resplendent you are and how abundant you are. The main thing I want to remember as I walk on this journey is to know that I don't understand anyone. People do not understand me. Plenty of people right now have a story about me. They have, and it could be a great story. Love that. Thank you. Appreciate it. Glad you chose a great story. But it is a story. It's not a full context because you are not walking in my shoes in all the journeys that I walk. And as much as I want to know you, as much as I seek to know you, as much as I attempt to ask questions and not fill in the blanks and not lean into my third eye, I still, even the people that are closest to me, I will never truly know because I'm not privy to all the facets of what makes them who they are. And so today I'm asking you, is there anyone you're filling the blanks in on? Is there anyone you've decided, I get it, I know what they're like, I understand. And is it possible, can you consider any arenas of your own life where people have not seen, have not understood, have not been clear of the magnitude of your being? You can always subscribe to Rare Bird Medicine on YouTube, like and comment there. I always love to hear your thoughts. Amun.